first thing that you want to look at is you want to look at soil as asset management. A lot of people will think about it like that, but a lot of us don't realize that. It's actually worth a lot more than your equipment, your house, because of what land's going for now, and we were talking about that outside, but also about what you're growing on that land. So really what you want to do is you want to look at your soil. Where was your soil 10 years ago? Where is your soil now? And where is your soil going in the future? It's amazing what you glean from smelling your soil. If it has that earthy, sweet smell, and I always relate kind of what it smells like right before it rains or right after it rains, that little good smell. That's actually what that is. That's actinomyces bacteria, which is a carbon-fixing bacteria. That means you have a good carbon profile in your soil. And carbon directly relates back to your organic matter in your soil. So again, we're still talking about that organic matter and that soil biology. You know, good decomposition of residue. You're cycling your nutrients. Again, when I talk about cycling nutrients, I'm talking about when you're putting fertilizer down, whether we're talking about grass or crops, that you're getting the pure value out of what you're putting down and it's not getting tied up and unavailable. So we're cycling nutrients better in good soil. If you have more of that kind of metallic or kitchen sink cleanser smell, that means your soil is dominated by anaerobic bacteria. It at least indicates anaerobic conditions, and obviously you're starting to struggle then. Your soil biology is struggling a little bit. So this side really talks about how do you increase your organic matter. Again, still talking about the organic matter. Well, some of the ways you can do that: cover crops, reduce tillage, prescribed grazing, manure management, all the things you guys have heard about. Okay, some of you do it, some of you don't. Those are just ways you increase organic matter. The other one that you can do is what we do with Terra One, and that's called bioaugmentation. That means we're putting the right soil biology back into the soil. Some guys will do multitude, several of these, reduce tillage or cover crops. Some won't. Really, our product works well if you're doing any of that, but it also works to restore that bacteria whether you're doing that or not. When you increase your soil organic matter, what you're going to get is you're going to get a better water holding capacity. And I'm going to talk to that and what that means for you. You're going to get more of the soil organisms, the soil structure, the infiltration of your nutrients into the soil. Again, better management, and really you're going to get more drought and disease resistant crops and grasses. So we talk about, I said it's going to retain water. Organic matter is really the ability of your soil to retain water. I talked to Mr. Mike and others that use the product, and a lot of times we'll hear, especially on grass, that we started to get really hot and dry. Grass was still growing, grass was still green, I could still graze my cattle. Part of the reason is that as you increase organic matter, you're increasing that water retention, that capacity of that soil to hold the water when we do get it. So 1% of organic matter, like I said, we really saw an average of about 2% organic matter. 1% organic matter holds about 10,000 gallons of water per acre. Okay? 1 inch of rain is equal to 26,000 gallons of water per acre. So if you only have 1% organic matter, you're holding just a little more than a third of what that rain putting down in inches is producing. So you're not getting the most efficient value out of holding that water in your soil. 3% organic matter, so if you increase your organic matter up to 3%, 1 acre can now hold 2 to 3 inches of rain, which would be equal to about 56,000 to 84,000 gallons of water. So now, if you have runoff problems, compaction, this is all going to help with that. The other thing that's really nice about organic matter, it's a great place to store nitrogen. So you'll get an additional nitrogen storing with as you increase your organic matter. So again, we talk about ways to increase organic matter. Talk about bioaugmentation. Obviously, I talked about the others. Again, what we're doing with the Terra One, that's the bioaugmentation. It's just putting the right bacteria into the soil. So soil biodiversity, again, I think it's all about placing the right biology into your soil. You're going to create more of a stable, resilient soil. You're going to drive that nutrient recycling, which means, again, you're going to make your nutrients more efficient to your crops and grasses. You're going to help with that decomposition of what you have in the ground, you know, whether it's crop waste, grass waste, whatever that is, it's going to help to decompose that, put it back into the soil. You're going to get some of that disease control. And really the disease control, you know, we'll get a lot of guys who will say, well then do I not need to put down a herbicide or a pesticide or anything like that? No, this isn't gonna solve all the problems, but it's gonna help you out. Maybe you don't have to use as much of that. Maybe you can manage it a little bit differently. I use the analogy of football. So the team play, there's soil biology in the ground. You wouldn't grow anything if there was no soil biology. It's just, is it the right soil biology? Again, that's what I'm selling to you. For saying I'm selling something. That's what I'm selling to you, is the right soil biology. It's like having the best quarterback and the best wide receiver in the game, but you have the worst offensive line. So that wide receiver is the fastest guy downfield, and he can get there, and the quarterback can get the ball to him, but he doesn't even have enough time because that offensive line can't stop anybody. That's the same concept of having the right bacteria in the soil. You want them to all function together appropriately, and that's what we're trying to do. That's what our bacteria package of Terra One does. Results in more of a team play in the soil. So this is a microbial bacteria. This is the composition, the makeup of it. Bacteria are pretty interesting. They basically eat, they reproduce, and they die. They do it very fast, and they do it very efficiently. In that process, what they're doing, it's part of what they're consuming in the soil, they leave behind, and that's what facilitates to the plant nitrogen, potassium, sulfur, calcium, magnesium, you know, your trace elements, carbon. Those are all what that bacteria leave behind. Now, the question a lot of times I get, guys will say, all right, well, if it's leaving behind nitrogen and phosphorus and calcium, then I don't need to fertilize. No, unfortunately, we don't have a solution to not fertilize, and this isn't a fertilizer at all. This is just a small piece of what it's leaving behind. But it is leaving that component behind. That's what's helping restore that soil biology. Bacteria, so services that bacteria provide, again, we talked about nutrient cycling, so you're getting the better push of nutrients to your plants. Nitrification, nitrogen fixation, disease suppression, and really the one I focus on is the breakdown of hard to decompose compounds, such as like your organic phosphorus or potassium. A lot of times it'll struggle basically to break down in the soil, your potassium and phosphorus. The Terra One, a good biological soil, will help to break that down. So this is the nitrogen cycle. Really what it's illustrating, these red arrows are representing the process where bacteria is involved, and if anything's done to disrupt that, then you have a problem. Basically, you're not getting the right nutrients in the right form to your plants or grasses. And again, repetition, but it goes back to that's what a good biological package, soil biology is going to do for you, is it's going to help that nitrogen cycle, it's going to get the right mix to your plants. Organic matter, we talked about soil biodiversity with your biology, your right bacteria in your soil. Now we're going to talk about mycorrhizal fungi. And really, mycorrhizal fungi is combined with beneficial bacteria. That's what Terra One is. It's a liquid product. It takes certain species of microbial bacteria and combines it with this thing called mycorrhizal fungi, and that's what this package is. Mycorrhizal, if you can see it, it looks like really like a cobweb in the soil. It attaches itself inside the root system. I explain, if you take cotton and you spread out a cotton ball, and you get those fine little cotton filaments, that's really what this is doing. It's attaching itself inside the root system, and now you're expanding your root system some 10 to 30 times what it is without the mycorrhizal. So that's where you're getting a lot more of your water retention, your nutrient retention. That's where it's coming from, as a derivative of the mycorrhizal. Really, it's referred to as soil superglue. It's going to build your soil aggregate. It follows organic matter. So again, we talk about getting your organic matter, increasing your organic matter in your soil, right soil biology. Mycorrhizal follows that process. You start to get all those, you start to develop good mycorrhizal. Mycorrhizal will take hold in any soil if it's undisturbed long enough. Some soil it could be 30 years before it starts to take hold, but it will naturally come back. It just takes a lot of time. When it's disturbed in the ground, if you're tilling, it's going to disturb the mycorrhizal. This product's an annual application. I don't know if I said that in the beginning, but that's what the intended use is, annual or every crop cycle application. Part of that is that you are disturbing that mycorrhizal and you want to continue to regenerate it by putting this down at the beginning of planting. It's going to strengthen your root system. It's going to make your plant less susceptible to wind damage, which you guys might not have a lot of that around here like we do in Kansas. I envy you for that. You're going to be less susceptible to drought. And really you're going to expedite the growth process for that through that nutrient uptake. You're going to get that push of nutrients when the plant needs it, and you're going to expedite the growth process. So, now let's talk about the results. What results can be accomplished through bioaugmentation, through using Terra One? And that's what we're talking about. You're going to increase your water holding capacity in your soil. Now, understand this is over time. Now, I'll tell you that, and you can talk to Mr. Mike, and I can give you examples of other guys that have used it. Some guys will see it first year, say visually great results, soil difference, grass was greener, I got better yields out of my crops, etc. And some guys don't in the first year. It depends on all the other factors that go into this. The environmental factors are key, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But what results can you expect? Increase your water holding capacity. Increase your soil biodiversity. So now we're getting the right biology to your soil. You guys are familiar with humic acid? You guys put humic acid down some, especially on grass? So humic acid is a biostimulant. This is a biological. The difference is a biostimulant is saying you have the right soil biology in your soil. We're going to put something that stimulates that soil biology and gets it to go, gets it to start to reproduce, feed. Again, I said that they basically feed, they reproduce, and they die. Biostimulant is saying we're going to start that process and get it really kick-started in your soil because it's already there. A biological, like Terra One, is saying you don't have the right soil biology. We want to introduce that soil biology. They'll work together. You can put humic acid down and Terra One, and it works well. The humic acid is going to get the Terra One to function even faster, but you don't have to. I just use that as an example because a lot of guys will talk to me, and a lot of times I'll get a phone call and say, what's the difference between a humate or humic acid and your product? Do I need to do both? And so that's why I like to address that. You're going to improve your nutrient utilization, your root structure and development, and you're going to get that better decomposition of crop residues. It's going to return that to nutrients to your soil. Again, your nutrient holding capacity, you're going to start to increase the organic matter in your soil. So I talked about organic matter in your soil and bringing that back. And I talked about, percentages. 1% of organic matter holding 10,000 gallons of water, 3% can hold up to 84,000. You go from holding 10,000 gallons to 26,000 gallons of water in your soil in a 4-year period. What's that worth to you? What's the price of water worth when you need it? And that's really where we go with that. You're going to improve your drainage because not only is it going to retain your water, but it's going to push your water through the soil. So if you do have ponding issues, if you have really tightly compacted soil, this is going to help to build that aggregate and aerate that soil some. It all goes back to is that communication with the soil and the plant, and the plant saying, here's what I need, and when you have that good soil biology, it's producing what that plant needs. And so we will see a move of that pH more back to what that plant or grass needs. And then, again, better asset management. I don't think there's many people out there that are going to tell you that good soil biology isn't going to help promote good crop management and grass. I don't think anybody's going to say, soil biology doesn't matter. I think everybody here understands you gotta have good soil biology. The debate comes with how do you know if it's good soil biology, how do you know what's going on in your soil, and what products do I put to give myself good soil biology, right? So that's really where the debate comes in, and that's where you have the different competitive products and everybody saying here's what'll help and that'll help and whatnot. So where I'm going with this is, over the years you have companies that a lot of times are repackagers of biologicals or biological products. They're buying the product from somebody and then they're just repackaging it, selling. The problem is a lot of times they don't really understand how that's affecting your soil and what it's doing, and they're probably not supporting that throughout the cycle. And I'm getting into explaining how we work with you. I'm kind of leading into, here's how we do that. First of all, the product, what ours is, it's biological, but it's built using sound science. We